Oh boy, disclaimer.
Welcome one and all to Banderson's Treehouse of Horror Countdown Review. Continue watching, if you dare. On the 20th of October 2019, the third major milestone of the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror series aired. Episode 30, which just so happened to be the 666th episode of The Simpsons. Yes, we are very close to the end of this countdown now, but before we get there, I just have to tackle this one first. Since Treehouse of Horror 20, the quality of these episodes has been mixed, with some being good and some being bloody awful. Will the 30th edition live up to its status as a milestone, or will it be on the awful side of the spectrum? Let's take a look. So we kick off Treehouse 30 with an intro reminiscent of XXX, a segment which was in Treehouse of Horror 28, 2 installments ago. Yeah, I get that it's a parody of The Omen and not The Exorcist, but come on, there's clearly familiarity here. Maggie being evil, making her toys act crazy, using telekinesis, hell, even killing Dr. Hibbert. It just feels a bit lazy. Still, I loved XXX and I love this intro for very much the same reasons. Maggie is an evil tot is brilliant. Ned realises that she is evil and tries to stop her, just like he did in XXX. Okay, that's the last time I'll mention it, I promise. Homer and Marge stop him from killing her, and she pays them back by killing all three of them with falling pillars. Their bodies then make the title card. Honestly, laziness aside, it is a good intro. Evil Maggie is enjoyable as usual, and the animation and visuals are beautiful, and it does have some funny moments. However, it is a bit too long, and like I said, they pretty much did this as a full segment 2 years earlier. Not exactly original, is it? Well, I'm at a huge disadvantage here because I've yet to watch a single episode of Stranger Things, so it will be a struggle to see just how well it follows the source material. Taking place in the 80s, we see Milhouse leaving Bart's house and getting attacked by an odd creature. Later on, he starts managing to reach people through using technology, and it's discovered he's in a different dimension. They go to Professor Frink for assistance, who manages to transfer Lisa to the other dimension, where she finds Milhouse and tries to escape with him. Being honest, this segment is AIDS. It's just so boring. One thing I noticed was all the 80s references. Seeing the ET game on Atari 2600 was pretty fun, I'll admit, but I think they went a bit overboard here. I think the joke is that they keep referencing different trends from different periods of the 80s. After all, Chief Wiggum even announces he's confused what year they're actually in.
Look, what the hell year is this anyway? I'm really getting confused.
Problem is, references to time periods are fine as brief gags, but when it's one of the main focuses of your segment, it gets dull pretty quick. Is this a parody of Stranger Things or the 80s? Another issue is I literally have no fucking clue what's going on here. I get that I haven't watched Stranger Things, so I probably won't get many of the references or jokes, but I watched The Shining before I watched The Shining and I followed that segment perfectly. You know why? Because that segment was well written and didn't rely on cheap gags that only fans of the movie would get. Even if you've never seen A Nightmare on Elm Street, the plot of Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace is easy to follow and you get a true sense of what the segment is trying to do. Here, we don't get that. It's just throwing random references in and hoping someone who watches Stranger Things will laugh. The ending is weak as hell too, if you can even call it an ending. Lisa and Milhouse bump into Homer, who reveals he's working for a secret government program run by Mr. Burns to find monsters. He states that they can't return home and that they are stuck there, only for one of the creatures to all of a sudden explain that living in their dimension is actually better. Wait, what? These creatures have been trying to kill people this entire segment, and now out of the blue they're nice monsters who have an Amazon delivery service? Where the hell did that come from? And then, at the Simpson home, Homer kills a Flanders-esque creature and that's it. The end. What the hell was that? This segment suffers from what quite a few poor segments have. The inability to focus on what's important. We only see the other dimension in the third bloody act. I'd have much rather have seen Homer, Lisa and Milhouse fending off creatures than seeing Milhouse's spirit playing with Christmas tree lights and asking if Lisa likes him over the phone. Less 80s references and more action would have been nice. The only thing Danger Things has going for it is its animation. The creatures and the other dimension are stunningly animated and the visuals are masterful, but aside from that, it's just a bucket of balls. I'm giving Danger Things a generous 2 out of 10, and that's simply because of the animation. Aside from that, it's a complete mess of a segment with no flow, barely any plot, terrible writing, unfunny joke, and a joke of an ending. Oh goody, another segment based on something I have yet to see. Whilst at a football game with Lenny and Carl, Homer asks for a hot dog but chokes to death on it. After arriving in heaven, he discovers that he wasn't meant to die yet. Sadly, his body is too decomposed for him to go back to, so he's given an app which allows him to choose a body of a recently deceased person. He then spends the rest of the segment trying and failing to find the perfect new body. Well, I'll give points for a really cool concept. The idea of throwing Homer into the body of any character in the show is a nice idea. And they do use it well, for the most part. Seeing him as Superintendent Chalmers helping Bart ruin Skinner's life is good fun, as is seeing his brief run as Mr. Teeny. But my favourite is actually the football player. Bringing in a new character for Homer to take control of was pretty well thought out, and seeing him almost immediately ruin his new body is pretty funny. But in all honesty, there isn't enough in this segment to really keep me invested. It has absolutely no scares whatsoever. Then again, most Treehouse segments lack any real scares these days. It's not particularly graphic either. It's more of a romantic drama, which makes sense considering it's a parody of Heaven Can Wait, but that just raises more questions. Why the hell is Heaven Can Wait being parodied in a horror special? Why couldn't they have put some kind of twist on it to make it scary? It's not that they haven't done that before. The ending is a bit odd. Marge puts her foot down and demands that Homer pick a permanent body, so he picks Moe because he loves her as much as he does. That's nice and all, but then Moe appears in Maggie's body. So wait, Maggie died? When? How? Fuck if I know. I'll give Heaven Swipes Right a 6 out of 10. The concept is interesting and it has its fun moments, but there's nothing overly special about it and it lacks in scares and visual. Wow, this really isn't my lucky day. 3 segments and all 3 of them are parodies of things I've never seen. Guillermo del Toro is one of my favourite directors, but I've never really had the chance or strong desire to watch The Shape of Water. But I know enough of its basic premise to hopefully get me through this. When Harry Met Slimy takes place at the nuclear power plant where Selma works as a cleaner. When sneaking off to smoke, she discovers Kang and they fall in love. Why do they fall in love? Why is Kang imprisoned in the power plant? Something never explained. Being honest, I can understand Selma falling in love with Kang. After all, we have seen how desperate she is in the Simpsons timeline. Kang, meanwhile, not so much. It would work if he was just using her to get information, like Kodo said with Bart in Treehouse 18, but no, they go the full distance, even getting married later on. I just don't understand it myself. Mr. Burns expresses his desire to dissect Kang, so Selma, with the help of Barney and Homer, sneaks him out of the plant. Mr. Burns and his men give chase, but Kodos appears in the spaceship and Kang uses an infinity gauntlet to kill Burns' posse. I really didn't like this joke. It's just so out of place and shoehorned in to capitalise on the popularity of the Avengers movies. Paddy and Kodos also fall in love, again making no sense. Kodos explains he is of many genders and then runs down every cringeworthy pun you can think of.
That's all right. I have 32 sexual identities. I'm Klingon curious, always up for some Wookiee nookie, or an R2 threesome, not to mention some Deep Space Nine, or possibly Jabba the Butt.
It really drags on. There are some good jokes throughout though, including some fantastic physical comedy. Spinner's having his head bit off, Mr. Burns having a can thrown at his head, and this gag all had me in stitches.
Don't shoot at the van, shoot at the driver.
But 3 funny jokes in an 8-minute segment isn't much to write home about. I wouldn't say the segment is bad, because it isn't. It's just incredibly uninteresting. I couldn't care less about Selma and Kang's relationship. I couldn't care less about the plot either. It's just a bland segment that exists. Maybe if it was funnier, or if they put more effort into Kang and Selma's relationship other than them smoking together, I would care more, but as it stands, I really don't. A bland average segment gets a bland average score. When Harry Met Slimy gets a 5 out of 10. I've seen way worse, but at least they were memorable. I'll have probably forgot about this one in a few weeks' time. Well, I'm not gonna lie, this was an extremely disappointing episode, especially considering it's the 30th instalment. Treehouse of Horror 20 was fantastic in every way, but this was just blah. It started extremely poorly with Danger Things, and whilst it did get better, it still didn't kick into a higher gear. It just sort of stayed in 3rd, despite meaning to be in 5th. And for automatic car drivers who don't understand that analogy, Google it. I'm giving Treehouse of Horror 30 a 4.5 out of 10. It's incredibly dull, none of the segments really do anything new or noteworthy, and it's pretty forgettable. I genuinely don't know what else to say, it leaves that little of an impact. And that's it for this video and this review. Do you agree with me, or do you think I'm a body short of a right swipe? What do you think of Treehouse of Horror 30? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.